GraphicAudio presents an audio guide to William W. Johnstone's epic best-selling Western series, The Eagles Saga, presented in rich, vivid graphic audio, a movie in your mind. The Eagles Saga is a multi-generational chronicle of the life and times of Jami MacCallister and his clan. A sprawling, two-fisted tale of action, courage, love, honor, and betrayal. Western fiction meets historical fact as the MacCallisters find themselves embroiled in the battle for the Alamo, the war between the states, the fateful clash of cavalry and Indians, and the massacre at Little Bighorn. The story of the MacCallisters spans the entirety of the 19th century, and the rich cast of characters takes us from sea to shining sea during the great period known for the settling of the American West. The saga begins in a humble cabin in the western Ohio wilderness. It takes you through life amongst the Shawnee tribe and Jami's subsequent years in Kentucky. The story's twists and turns take us eventually to a rendezvous with fate in San Antonio, Texas. Afterwards, the young man's travels will eventually carry him deep into uncharted country that will someday be called Colorado. It's there that he sets down roots, and it's there that his dreams grow to fruition. Eventually, those dreams will be carried on by his children, Jamie Ian Jr., Ellen Kathleen, Andrew, Rosanna, Matthew, Megan, and Morgan, and Jolene. But none carry on more proudly in the true grit tradition of Jami MacCallister than his last born, Falcon, who becomes a gunslinging legend in his own time. The characters.
You go tell Barlow I'm here. Tell him to come fogging if that's his intention. This town's graveyard ain't half filled yet. Now ride, you two-bit bastard.
Jami MacCallister. As a young boy, Jami is seldom known to smile. He's a serious lad, and it's no wonder. At the tender age of 7, he witnesses the murder of his parents and baby sister and is abducted by Shawnee warriors. He's raised by the Indians after being adopted by Chief Tall Bull, and by the time he's 11, his life with the Shawnee has toughened him and prepared him for the open road. He escapes and is soon pursued by the embittered Little Wolf, his own brother by adoption. By 13, Jami is a grown man. His childhood has been virtually non-existent. He's tall, broad-shouldered, and tremendously powerful. He's lean of hip and strong of arm, his wrists larger than most men's forearms. His eyes are blue and his hair blonde, worn shoulder length. His face is tanned and rugged, the jaw square and slightly dimpled. Women consider Jami handsome, but Jami never gives it a thought one way or the other. He's eventually taken in by a Kentucky family headed by patriarch Sam Montgomery. It's then that he meets his lifetime love and partner, Kate Olmsted. But Kate's father and brother bear no love for Jami, and soon the loving couple will leave to find peace and raise a family. But Jami is constantly on his guard as they are stalked now by Little Wolf, Kate's own family, and bounty hunters as well. And Jami's mettle will be tested in the future at the siege of the Alamo and in the war between the states. Tall Bull.
Hear me, my people! Whitehair is no more! Never speak the name again! From this moment forward, this boy is my son, and he shall be called Man Who Is Not Afraid. He is my son! Insult him, and you insult me!
Tall Bull is a stern and brave warrior and a respected sub-chief of a band of Shawnee. He's also very superstitious. He knows he should kill the captive Jami immediately. There's open defiance in the boy's eyes, but he holds back and ends up adopting the white child. Kate Olmsted.
Don't feel bad about it, Jami. Sarah told me they could never expect to hold you back there. She said you were like an eagle. You had to fly and see through the eyes of eagles. Sam was there and he agreed. He said you were born for the wild country, for the mountains and the desert and the wilderness.
Jami MacCallister stumbles upon Kentucky and Kate Olmsted when he's 12. She's just about the same age. He thinks she's just about the prettiest thing he's ever seen. She has hair the color of wheat and dark blue eyes. All the young boys follow her around, but Kate has only eyes for Jami. And that's the way things will stay, even though she's forbidden to see Jami by her father. Eventually, the two will run off to make a life together. Kate's sweet as molasses, but don't let that fool you. She's got gumption to spare, and she can manage raising 9 children and still being a nearly perfect wife for Jami MacCallister. Hart Olmsted.
Listen good, Sam. I'll find him. And when I kill that MacAllister bastard, I'll scalp him and bring his yellow hair back to wave under your nose. I'll see them both dead, that's a promise.
Kate's father, Hart Olmsted, is an ignorant, opinionated, overbearing, crude, and hulking lout. And his 4 sons are just like him. He beats Kate savagely for seeing Jami. And when the couple runs off, Hart is immediately in pursuit, hiring gunslingers to up the ante. Sam Montgomery.
Listen to that. Olmsted wants everyone in our community to be here to see me receive a thrashing at his hands. I'm afraid he is to be sorely disappointed. Sorely in more ways than one. Sarah, would you be so kind as to grind some beans and have a fresh pot of coffee for me? And also have some hot water to bathe my cuts and bruises. Mr. Olmsted is a brute, and I shall not come out of this unscathed.
Sam Montgomery is a wealthy married farmer who takes young Jami MacCallister in after he escapes from the Shawnee. Sam is loving, even-handed, and fair, but he never backs down from a fight. Sam comes from a very rich family back east, as does his wife. Both families see to it that they want for naught. Sam and Sarah were quite young when they fell in love, but another family wanted their son to marry Sarah. There was a fight, and Sam killed the boy's father and had to flee just ahead of the law. The warrants have long since been cleared, but they like it on the frontier and they just don't want to go back. Eventually, Sam relocates to Colorado to join Jami and Kate. Falcon McAllister.
You'd better tell your carpenter to start knocking together caskets. You're gonna need them.
Falcon McAllister is the youngest son of Jami and Kate, born in 1839. Some have written that Falcon McAllister is a cold-blooded killer who terrorizes the West, killing hundreds of men for sport after his wife's death in 1876. Actually, the number of men who fall under Falcon's guns is much lower than that. There is no sport involved. It's true that Falcon is a gunfighter, and it's also true that he's a skilled gambler, but it is not true that he's an outlaw and a highwayman. That's nonsense, for Falcon is a rich man. He's the spitting image of his father. He stands 6'3" and is heavy with muscle, and just like his father, Falcon is quick on the shoot. Falcon is known as a bad man, but in the West, that just means he's a bad man to crowd. Along with the regular cast of characters, the MacAllister clan rubs shoulders with many of the most celebrated and infamous personages of the American 19th century. Men like Kit Carson.
Now here, folks, you have a living legend, Jami Ian MacCallister, scout, engine fighter, one of the heroes of the Alamo, and a man to ride the river with.
Abraham Lincoln.
The South can't win, Jami. It is going to be a very long war, and a costly one in terms of human life. But the South cannot win. We have the factories, the manpower, and the wherewithal to sustain for years. The South simply does not. You could help bring this terrible tragedy to a sooner end, Jami.
Robert E. Lee.
Jami, begin training your marauders hard, for I am going to thrust you all into the lion's mouth very soon. You and your marauders are going to cross the river and begin harassing actions against Patterson's green and unproven troops. I want you to convince Patterson that he has many more men attacking him than he does in truth. Buy us some time, Major. For God's sake and the sake of the Confederacy, buy us some time.
Pat Garrett.
I'm giving my notice, Falcon. I've decided to run for sheriff of Lincoln County. George Kimball's up for re-election, but I don't think he can win. No one around here thinks he's got the cojones to kill Billy the Kid. I plan to campaign on the promise to bring the kid in, dead or alive.
Billy the Kid.
I tell you, Falcon, I've been in jail. Twice. And I broke out. Twice. I can't stand being locked up. No, sir, I don't ever intend for that to happen again. And if I have to kill somebody to keep from being locked up, then so be it.
Doc Holliday.
Howdy, Mr. MacAllister. My name's John Henry Holliday, but everybody calls me Doc. Meet Curly Bill Brocious and Johnny Ringo. Two of the most butt-ugly men God ever put on the face of the earth. Go get your pistols and make your play, boys, and I'll put a tunnel in your skulls.
Teddy Roosevelt.
Gentlemen of the jury, I agree with Mr. Woodward that the average man would not shoot to death a stranger who made the innocent mistake of entering the wrong room. Neither would Falcon McAllister. We intend to prove that Creed Howard was neither innocent nor did he make a mistake. He entered Falcon McAllister's room knowing full well that it was McAllister's room, and he did so with the intention of murdering Mr. McAllister.
General George Armstrong Custer.
Everything in life is an adventure, Dorman. I'm glad you men managed to get away without getting your scalps lifted. But I wouldn't worry about how many Indians there are out there. The thing to worry about is whether or not we can catch enough of them together to make a fight of it, or if they'll just run away the way they normally do.
And Crazy Horse.
Join your band with me. We have Oglala, Brule, Minneconchu, Cheyenne. We are gathered from everywhere to defeat the white man in battle, once and for all. It is in this way that we may forever reclaim our land.
The stories. Eagles 1, Eyes of Eagles. It's the tale that starts it all. It follows Jami MacCallister from the age of 7 to his stand at the Alamo, a classic in the tradition of Little Big Man. Eagles 2, Dream of Eagles. Jami joins famed frontiersman Kit Carson on the first U.S. Army expedition from Missouri to the wide Pacific, forging a future in a dawning era of greatness and greed that will stain the pages of history with blood and make McAllister into a national legend. Eagles 3, Talons of Eagles. Now 50, Jami MacCallister leads a serene life of retirement in Colorado, even as his sons are fighting on both sides of the Civil War. Summoned to Washington, Jami is offered the position of Chief Scout for the Union by Lincoln himself. But though the rugged Westerner loathes slavery, he loves states' rights more, and after a meeting with Robert E. Lee, he signs up with the Confederacy as commander of a guerrilla band. Eagles 4, Scream of Eagles. Jami Ian MacCallister has survived the bloodshed of the Alamo and the Civil War. Now, the battle has gotten personal. Jami is on a one-man vendetta against the Miles Nelson gang, men responsible for the brutal murder of his wife, Kate. His journey of revenge will take him from Atlantic City to the deadly landscape of the Colorado Rockies, and finally to the Battle of Little Bighorn. This blood-drenched Western Odyssey has drawn comparisons from critics to the films of Clint Eastwood, and with good reason. Jami Ian MacCallister's relentless pursuit is a jaw-clenching trek into the hellish heart of the American West. Eagles 5, Rage of Eagles. Jami Ian MacCallister and Kate MacAllister are together now, buried side by side on a ridge overlooking the huge Colorado Valley they had settled and the town they had founded. It's up to their children now to carry on the McAllister legacy. Falcon McAllister is more than willing to take on that task. Now, after the cowardly murder of his father, Falcon is out for revenge against the Noonan gang. On his quest, he'll become embroiled in the deadly Wyoming Range Wars and face down the notorious Silver Dollar Kid before coming face to face with Nance Noonan himself. Eagle 6, Song of Eagles. In the Pecos Valley, New Mexico, a cattle war thrust renowned gunfighter Falcon McAllister into the dead center of one of the most violent range battles on record, and barrel to barrel with William Bonney. Bonney's victims called him Billy the Kid. McAllister calls him a bad risk. But in the deadly gamble of the Lincoln County War, placing your bet on an outlaw like the Kid might be the only game in town. Eagle 7, Cry of Eagles. The adventure begins for Falcon McAllister in the town of Tombstone, where his newfound friend Doc Holliday gets an invitation to a dance of death at the OK Corral. From there, Falcon will travel from the Arizona border to the shadows of the Dragoon Mountains, pursuing a murderous band of Apaches led by the Mescalero chief Naiche. His warriors are bent on the slaughter of every man, woman, and child they encounter on their way to a war council with Chief Gokola, better known as the infamous Geronimo. Eagles 8, Blood of Eagles. The Oklahoma Panhandle is 100 miles of lawlessness and danger, a no-man's land designed to separate Texas from pro-Union Kansas. Through this desolate strip rides legendary gunslinger Falcon McAllister with a 12-year-old Indian boy by his side. Behind them lies a scene of horror left by outlaws who've massacred the boy's parents, as well as the settlers in a small wagon train. As they search the panhandle for the killers, Falcon and Wahatley enter a storm of greed, thievery, and betrayal that has its roots in two long, gleaming bands of steel. A new railway is penetrating this hostile land, meaning riches to some, death to many. Into this maelstrom rides a boy and a gunfighter on their own brutal search for retribution. Eagles 9, Destiny of Eagles. Falcon McAllister's father, Jami Ian, was a genuine legend in the West. Falcon's quest for justice has driven him onto what many consider the wild side of the law. Famed as a gunslinger, feared for his lethal speed and accuracy, Falcon decides to make it a fair fight when he comes upon a man being attacked by a bandit gang in the Dakota Territory. The man he helps is Teddy Roosevelt, the original Rough Rider himself. Soon, Falcon and Teddy are entangled in a web of robbery, kidnapping, and murder that will lead to Falcon's trial on manslaughter charges. Eagles 10, Revenge of Eagles. When Falcon McAllister buys a silver mine in the Arizona Territory from his old friend Doc Holliday, he gets more than he bargained for. On the way to inspect the mine, Falcon's stagecoach is robbed, and 2 passengers are killed. One of those passengers is Cloud Dancer, the daughter of Apache Chief Kitano, nephew to Naiche, Falcon's old nemesis. The territory's in danger of another Apache uprising, unless Falcon agrees to deliver the scalps of the 6 outlaws responsible for Cloud Dancer's murder. Add to the mix a band of Indian renegades who decide to take the matter of the Apache princess's revenge into their own hands. Falcon McAllister will ride into blazing 6-gun action once again. Eagles 11, Pride of Eagles. Hired by a wealthy cattle baron, Falcon sets out from San Francisco for the town of Laramie with a magnificent Arabian horse in tow. He rides straight into a storm of treachery and murder. Already stalked by a vengeance-crazed Yuma prison escapee, Falcon is distracted by 2 beautiful women, a seductress with a voice like an angel and a lovely widow with a gift for guns. Meanwhile, another outlaw lays down a villainous trap for Falcon. No doubt about it, blood will be shed. When and how is only a matter of one man's swift revenge. Eagles 12, Crusade of Eagles. The MacAllister clan was raised on a harsh, unforgiving frontier, where courage and blood bonds mattered the most. While Falcon McAllister followed his father's mountain man legacy, his brother and sister made their fame and fortune on the stages of New York and Europe. Now, they're planning a family reunion. Andrew and Rosanna MacAllister are headed to Colorado to visit their kin until they step into the crosshairs of a murderer's plan. Loomis Tate knows that the two actors from back east have a rich brother named Falcon, but he's not counting on how fiercely that brother will fight for his kin after Tate's crew, including the venomous albino, kidnapped them for ransom. Falcon McAllister is on a crusade, and his war won't be over until the last bad man drops. Eagles 13, Thunder of Eagles. Higbee, Colorado, population 147, is about to become a boom town. The visionary General Wade Garrison is building a railroad to connect Higbee to the renowned Santa Fe Rail. But a rancher named Ike Clinton has his own selfish reasons for making sure these bands of steel go nowhere, and he'll go to any lengths to derail Garrison's plans. Falcon McAllister owes a wartime debt to the general, and he answers the call to aid the man in his fight with the Clinton brood. The proud little town of Higbee is about to be torn to pieces. Neighbors, families, and lovers will be bitterly divided. Bodies will litter the streets. And before the last gun smoke clears, Falcon will come face to face with Clinton's hired gunman, an outlaw known as the fastest gun in the West, Jefferson Tyree. Eagles 14, Bloodshed of Eagles. Falcon McAllister never thought he'd wear Army brass, but Colorado was about to join the Union, and the would-be state has just made him lieutenant colonel in its home guard. But before his military career can take off, Falcon loses one of his men and 2 deadly new Gatling guns to a murderous ambush. Falcon's going to get those Gatling guns back before they kill the wrong people. Tracing the missing guns to eastern Montana, Falcon teams up with a scout named Isaiah Dorman. Falcon and Dorman are spearheading a battle against the Sioux in the shadow of the disastrous Little Bighorn slaughter. For these two men, survival along the Little Bighorn is going to mean breaking rules, standing strong, standing together, and holding off a deadly onslaught with only a few guns against many. Eagles 15, Slaughter of Eagles. In Phoenix, a sheriff guns down a banker and robs him of a document. Going to the banker's aid, a witness hears the dying man's last words and takes hold of the map the sheriff was really after. By the time the crooked lawman realizes he has the wrong document, Janelle Wellington is on the run and framed for the murder of the banker. Meanwhile, Falcon McAllister's famous brother and sister plead with him to find a young woman who has vanished out west. Her name? Janelle Wellington. Falcon will be one of many men searching for Janelle and for a mysterious hidden treasure. But with a hired killer and a deadly deception facing Falcon, his search is leading him straight to a slaughter. Don't miss the epic, pulse-pounding excitement in William W. Johnstone's best-selling Eagles saga. You can find the individual chapters, all available at www.graphicaudio.net. We appreciate it.